Have you ever been judged before someone even heard your story? Have you ever been looked down on? Not because of who you are, but because of what people thought they saw? At Narrated Stories, we believe that everyone deserves to be seen, to be heard, to be respected. That's why we share these emotional stories, true-to-life journeys about quiet courage, human dignity, and what happens when kindness stands taller than pride. If this story spoke to you, if it reminded you of your own experience, or made you reflect on the power of patience and grace, we'd love for you to join our community. Please consider subscribing to Narrated Stories and turn on the notification bell. Your support is what keeps us going, what inspires us to bring you more stories like this. Every like, every comment, every share helps these voices reach further, helping others feel seen, heard, and understood. Thank you for spending your time with us. Thank you for listening with an open heart. We look forward to sharing the next story with you right here on Unraveled Fates. Let's begin. I'm not much for fancy things. Never have been. I don't wear a gold watch. I don't drive a shiny new truck. And the sign hanging above my shop has needed repainting for 3 summers now. My name's Marcus Carter, 45, born and raised right here in this town where everybody knows your story before you've had a chance to tell it. I run a small garage on the edge of Main Street. Carter Auto Repair. 2 bays, a stack of old tires by the fence, and an honest day's work for anybody who comes through. It's not the biggest place. It's not the prettiest either, but I know my way around an engine. And the folks who bring their cars here, they know it too. I work on what people drive, the trucks that haul hay, the minivans that bring the kids to school, the old sedans folks hold on to because it's cheaper to fix than to buy new. I don't mind. I take pride in it. But not everybody sees the value in steady hands. Not everybody sees the man behind the wrench. Some look at my place and decide they know all they need to know. Small garage, black mechanic, must not be good enough. I've seen those looks before. The eyes that scan the floor, the peeling paint, the old fan rattling in the corner, looking for a reason to doubt me. Most of the time, they find one. It was one of those days when they showed up. Late afternoon, sun high, air thick, the kind of heat that makes the pavement shine. They pulled up in a big white Range Rover, clean as a showroom floor. Chrome so polished I could see my reflection in it. Husband and wife, older, dressed like they stepped out of one of those lifestyle magazines. He wore golf clothes, slacks, cap, the whole deal. She had on a pale blue blazer, pearls at her ears, sunglasses that cost more than my rent. I could tell right away they didn't belong here. Not because of the car, not because of the clothes, because of the way they looked at my shop, like they were surprised it didn't have a chandelier. I wiped my hands on a rag and stepped out to greet them. "Afternoon. What can I do for you?" The man barely nodded. The woman gave me a smile so thin it could snap. "We're having trouble with the suspension," she said. "It's a Range Rover." She said it like that meant something. I nodded. "I've worked on plenty." She laughed soft and quick. "No offense, but this isn't your average pickup truck. It's high-end." European, the husband crossed his arms, gave me the once-over. "You know anyone around here who handles that?" I could have rattled off my certifications. Could have told them about the long nights I spent learning those systems inside and out. Could have told them about the other Range Rovers, the BMWs, the Audis I've kept running when other shops wouldn't even try. But I didn't. I just stood there, calm. "You're looking at him." The husband gave a small huff. The wife raised one perfect eyebrow, looked back at their car like I might scratch the paint just by standing too close. "We'll check around," she said. Then they turned, got back into their big white SUV, pulled out without so much as a thank you. I watched them go. Not angry, not surprised. You get used to it after a while. If you let every sideways glance, every word like that stick to your ribs, you'd never get through a day. So I turned back to the shop, picked up my tools. There was still work to do. Engines don't care what color your skin is. Engines don't care if you're rich or poor. They just need someone who knows how to listen. And sometimes life has a way of teaching folks that the person they look down on might just be the one they'll need the most. The thing about pride is, It makes people blind. Blind to skill, blind to kindness, blind to their own need. I figured I wouldn't see that couple again. Folks like them, when they make up their minds, it's hard to turn them around. But life's funny that way. It was the next afternoon when the call came in. I was under a '99 Ford changing out the fuel filter, radio humming soft in the background. The kind of work that keeps your hands busy, but your mind calm. The phone rang. I wiped the grease off my fingers and picked up. Carter Auto Repair. Silence at first, just the faint sound of wind on the other end. Then a voice, tight, clipped. This is Richard Whitman. His tone like he was choking on the words. Took me a second, but I placed the name. The golf cap. The Range Rover. We're having a situation with the car. It's dead on the highway. Can't get it started. I kept my voice steady. Sorry to hear that. You tried any of the shops closer to the interstate? He cleared his throat. I could almost hear the pride folding in on itself. We called around. No one seems to know how to deal with this model. No one but me. But he couldn't bring himself to say it. I see. I let the pause hang there just long enough for him to feel it. Where are you parked? Mile marker 42, about 5 miles out of town. I'll be there in 15. He didn't say thank you, just hung up. I put my tools down, washed my hands slow. No rush. I've learned there's no need to hurry when you know exactly what you're doing. Grabbed my kit, locked up the shop, headed out in my old Chevy pickup, the one with the dent in the door and the paint starting to fade along the hood. The sun was sitting low, casting that golden light across the fields. Birds circling up high, clouds soft as cotton. When I pulled up to the Range Rover, I could see them both standing outside the car. The hood was popped, but the two of them were just staring at the engine like it was a foreign language. She had her arms crossed tight over her chest. He was pacing, sweat shining on his forehead. They didn't wave, didn't smile, but they were waiting. I parked, stepped out slow, toolbox in hand. Afternoon, I said, same as before. No answer, just that stiff, uncomfortable silence. I walked up, took one look under the hood, and saw the problem right away. Faulty alternator. Should have been caught on their last service if the person doing the job had been paying attention. Looks like your alternator's shot, I said, voice steady. Battery's dead because of it. The husband wiped at his brow, tried to keep the frustration out of his voice. Can you fix it? I nodded. Yes, sir. Got the part back at my shop. They didn't ask about price. Didn't ask how long it would take. At that moment, they weren't in a place to negotiate. I'll tow it in, I told them. Should have you back on the road before nightfall. The wife looked away. The husband gave a short nod. Still no thank you. But I didn't need one. I've learned that the people who look down on you, they're often the ones most afraid to look you in the eye when they need your help. I walked back to my truck, hooked up the tow, worked in silence. No need for words. The work spoke for itself. Funny thing about people, they'll do just about anything not to admit when they're wrong. I could feel it hanging in the air between us, the words they couldn't quite bring themselves to say, the apology they weren't ready to offer, the thank you they weren't sure how to give. But need has a way of humbling folks. Pride don't fix engines. By the time I got their Range Rover back to my shop, the sun was starting to lean heavy toward the horizon, long shadows across the gravel. Air cooling down just enough to make the sweat on my back feel like ice. They stood off to the side, arms crossed, lips tight. Didn't say much, just watched. I opened the hood again, took my time, checked the other systems while I was at it. If you're going to do a job, do it right. The alternator was worse than I thought. Whoever serviced that car last either didn't care or didn't know what they were doing. Probably both. I glanced over at them. Who worked on this last? The husband shifted on his feet. Dealership, back in Dallas. I nodded, not surprised. Lot of dealerships out there know how to sell a car, but not how to keep one running. Should have caught this, I said. Calm, no judgment, just the truth. I turned back to the work, laid out my tools, unboxed the new alternator I had sitting on the shelf, kept one in stock because, well, you learn what folks around here drive. They stayed quiet while I worked. I could feel their eyes on my hands, watching every move. Maybe waiting for me to fumble. Maybe wondering how a man like me, black, small shop, nothing fancy, could know so much about a car they'd thought was out of my league. But my hands didn't shake. Not once. I've done this too long. The husband cleared his throat after a while. Tried to sound casual. So, how long you been working on these kinds of vehicles? I kept my eyes on the job. Long enough? Silence again. Then the wife spoke, voice softer than before. Is it going to be expensive? I looked up, met her eyes for the first time that day. Same rate as anyone else. She blinked like she didn't quite understand the answer. Even for a car like this? I nodded. A job's a job. Don't matter what you drive. She didn't say anything after that. Pride's a funny thing. It'll keep a man from asking for help when he's knee-deep in trouble. It'll make a woman turn her head instead of saying thank you. But pride don't fix what's broken. Steady hands do. I stayed late that night finishing up their repair. Didn't rush. Didn't cut corners. Never have. I worked the way my daddy taught me. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. The garage was quiet except for the click of my ratchet, the soft creak of the old floor fan spinning in the corner, the kind of silence that lets you hear your own thoughts whether you want to or not. They waited outside, sitting stiff on the bench near the door, whispering low between themselves. I didn't listen, didn't need to. I could feel their eyes every time they glanced my way. They weren't used to being here, at the mercy of someone they'd written off not a day before. I reckon that kind of realization sits heavy on a person. I tightened the last bolt, wiped my hands on the same old rag, then gave the alternator one last check. Good. Solid. No worries there. I turned to the husband, caught him looking down at his shoes. It's ready, I said. He stood up quick, like the words startled him. Oh, good. The wife stayed seated, arms folded, chin lifted just enough to keep that distance between us. I walked past her, slow and steady, and slid the keys onto the counter. Take it around the block if you want, I offered. Make sure it feels right. The husband nodded, reached for the keys like they were heavier than they ought to be. He paused there, hand hovering, eyes not quite meeting mine. How much do I owe you? He asked. Same as anybody else. I could see the confusion in his face, like he wasn't sure if I was serious, like he expected me to charge more just because of the make of the car. Or maybe because of how they treated me. But I meant what I said. I don't charge extra for attitude. I don't up the price just because someone looked down their nose at me. Work's work. The wife finally spoke then, her voice quieter, softer than before. Why? It wasn't angry, wasn't sharp, just one word hanging there in the air. I knew what she meant. Why hadn't I made them pay more? Why had I come out there at all? Why had I helped when I could have turned my back? I looked her in the eye. Because that's not who I am. Simple as that. She held my gaze longer than I expected. Something in her face shifted. Not much. Just a flicker behind the eyes. Maybe the first crack in the wall they'd built between themselves and the rest of the world. Her husband cleared his throat, still fumbling with the keys. His hand shook just a little. Well, we appreciate it, he mumbled. I nodded once. Didn't smile, just nodded. You take care now, I said. He stepped out to the car, started the engine. It purred like a kitten, smooth, strong, just the way it should. The wife lingered for a moment at the door. I thought she might say more, but sometimes folks need time to sit with their own words before they let them out. I didn't rush her. She gave me the faintest nod, then followed her husband out to the car. I stood there in the doorway, watched their tail lights fade down the road. Didn't feel proud, didn't feel smug, just felt steady, the way a man should feel when he does right by the work in front of him, because that's the thing about fixing what's broken. You don't do it with pride, you do it with steady hands. The next morning came easy. Sky soft blue, sun just climbing. The kind of morning that makes you feel like maybe the world's not such a bad place after all. I was out front, sweeping the gravel near the shop entrance. Same as I always do. Didn't expect to see them again, but there they were. That big white Range Rover rolling slow down Main Street, pulling up right out front. The husband got out first. No golf cap this time. No pressed slacks. Just jeans and a plain shirt. Looked like maybe he'd slept in it. His wife stepped out after him. No pearls today. No blazer. Just a light sweater and those same sunglasses. But this time, she pushed them up onto her head instead of hiding behind them. They walked up together. I leaned on my broom, waited. It was the wife who spoke first. "We wanted to stop by," she said, voice steady but softer, "to say thank you, properly." I gave a small nod. The husband cleared his throat, hands shoved deep into his pockets. "I know we didn't treat you right," he said. "You could have told us to go to hell. Honestly, we probably deserved it." I stayed quiet, let them get the words out on their own. "But you didn't," the wife added. "You showed up anyway. You did the work. You were fair." She looked down for a second, then back at me. "That says more about you than anything we assumed." I could see the weight of it on their faces. The kind of humility that doesn't come easy, the kind that's earned. The husband stepped forward, reached into the back seat, pulled out a small box. Inside, 2 fresh apple pies from the bakery down the road, wrapped in brown paper, tied with string. "Not much," he said, "but we figured, well, maybe you could share them with your family." I smiled then, couldn't help it. "My family's right here," I told him, waving a hand toward the shop. "And I'm sure these boys will put those pies to good use." They both smiled back, real smiles this time. Not tight, not forced. The wife let out a breath like she'd been holding it all night. "I hope next time," she said, "if we're ever back this way, we can stop by again. Maybe not for car trouble." "Maybe," I said, tipping my head. They got back in their car, drove off down the road, slower this time. No rush, no need. And me? I stood there a moment longer, watching until they were out of sight. Then I went back to sweeping. Because here's the thing I've learned after all these years. It's easy to meet anger with anger. Easy to throw someone's bad attitude right back in their face. But easy don't fix much. I didn't help them because they deserved it. I helped them because I could. Because that's the kind of man I choose to be. The world will always have folks who look down on you. Folks who judge you by what you drive, what you wear, the color of your skin. But respect, real respect, it doesn't come from shouting the loudest or proving somebody wrong. It comes from showing up, doing the work, standing steady, even when someone else is too proud to meet you eye to eye. Kindness travels farther than any car ever could, and sometimes it gets people exactly where they need to go. Thank you for taking the time to be here and for listening to one of our heartfelt, emotional stories. At Narrated Stories, we believe that sometimes the most powerful lessons come not from loud victories, but from quiet strength, steady hands, and simple acts of kindness. This story wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about proving who was right. It was about dignity, about standing your ground with grace when someone else chooses to look down on you. The black man in this story, a humble mechanic, didn't raise his voice. He didn't fight disrespect with anger. Instead, he met pride and prejudice with skill, patience, and heart. And in doing so, he taught us something we all need to remember. True strength lies not in what we own, but in how we treat one another. In a world quick to judge by appearance, title, or wealth, stories like this remind us that respect is earned through action, not status. These are the voices we aim to uplift here at Unraveled Fates. Voices that show what happens when compassion leads the way. If this story touched you, if it made you reflect on your own journey, we invite you to be part of this conversation. Please like, comment, and share. Tell us how this story moved you or reminded you of your own experiences. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Thank you for supporting Narrated Stories. Together, we keep these important emotional stories alive because they are real, they are ours, and they deserve to be heard.